fallen shall rise again. Not today.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're going to be checking out the Transformers Age of the Primes Leader Class Megatronus the Fallen, one of the original 13 Primes, which are basically considered to be the gods of all Transformers. And as rightly said in the Transformers 1 movie,
Megatronus was the coolest Prime!
This guy was by far the most powerful of the 13 and also the most evil, becoming what would be the first original Decepticon as well as the inspiration behind Megatron. And as we whack up an image of how he first appeared in the Dreamwave comics, this guy's robot mode really appears to pull a lot of inspiration from that design, and rightly so, as it's arguably the best the Fallen has ever looked. So as we check out the details, his head sculpt is sick, incredibly formidable, and again insanely comics accurate. Much like Scourge in Rise of the Beasts, this version of the Fallen is iconic for being permanently ablaze, which is why the entire upper torso resembles a full-blown furnace, which is just nuts. And as if this guy's design couldn't get any more badass, he is also armed to the teeth with a ton of additional sculpted in weaponry. There are missile pods on the shoulders, the hips, and even some along the side of the legs. And just to round it all off, he even has a full-blown scope fully integrated into his right shoulder, giving him the ability to lock onto a target and to blast them clean off the face of the universe with no issue at all. And as we spin around to the back of Megatronus, this guy is stacked. He's literally a unit. There are next to no hollow joints, and much like the 86 movie Scourge, some of the connectors have been sculpted in a way where they almost double as additional gap fillers, which is just so cool from a design standpoint. Not to mention that I'd argue that the back of this guy has been equally as detailed as the front, even down to these pretty savage serrated blades, which I could totally see him using in order to grate the face clean off one of his victims. In terms of accessories, up first he does include the Requiem Blaster, which is a brilliant piece of design and fictionally so powerful that it has the ability to simply destroy planets. Which is why you are totally able to slap on this suppressor onto the front so that Megatronus can use this in close-up combat. But you can also slap this onto the back of the Fallen in order to create for a look that does appear to be incredibly similar to a certain leader of the Decepticons. Then next up, as a really cool throwback to the Robots in Disguise TV show, Megatronus includes the Spark Fuser and a Machete, which have both been incredibly detailed and are looking super accurate. These can even be combined in order to form a much larger staff weapon. And as if this guy's design wasn't already awesome enough, he also includes a ton of additional blast effects, which have been incredibly detailed and can be attached throughout the robot mode to again really give you the impression that his energon is so powerful that it does in fact stay permanently ignited. Turning to posability to see whether or not this Prime has the touch. To begin with, the head is on a ball joint. This will look up, down, tilt side to side, and can be spun left to right. The shoulders can kick forwards and backwards, and they're out to the side. Due to transformation, there is even an inbuilt butterfly joint that can crunch forwards and backwards, 86 movie Optimus Prime style. The bicep can spin, the elbow can bend pretty much there to 90, the wrists are ball jointed, and the hands can open and close to give this guy the ability to crush the Autobot Matrix of Leadership. His waist has no issues in spinning all the way around, the hip skirts can kick out to the side, allowing him to complete the full-blown splits on that battlefield. He is also packing a pretty deadly high kick, the thigh can spin all the way around, and the knee can bend there to 90. The ankles can crunch both forwards and backwards, and can also rock inwards, allowing you to get this guy into some pretty killer poses. But to see the true power of this Prime, let's now put this guy through the pose test. Now, firing through some robot mode size comparisons, Firstly, we just had to start off with the last time we saw the Fallen grace the mainline, that being based on his Revenge of the Fallen live action movie appearance. Next up is the Studio Series 86 Commander Class Optimus Prime, and I've got to say guys that if there was one threat in the entire universe that was going to make Prime absolutely mess his pants, then I really do think it would be this guy. The 86 movie Galvatron, and I've just got to mention guys how cool it is to finally see the return of a decently sized leader finally make its way into the mainline. The Legacy Evolution Voyager Class Tarn. Now call me crazy guys, but I'm thinking in the future that the Fallen could potentially make for a pretty awesome version of Tarn, especially for those who thought this release was a little too skinny. The Transformers Cybertron Universe Voyager Class Vector Prime, and it is so damn cool to finally see the original 13 Primes brought to the forefront of an all new mainline. If Hasbro keep this quality up, I definitely think we are going to be in for an absolute treat. The Myth, the Legend, the Earthrise Optimus Prime, Transformers 1 Deluxe Class Megatron, then finally the 86 movie Bumblebee. Turning to this guy's transformation, he transforms in a crazy 38 steps, so let's get cracking. For the first step, making use out of the fists, use these in order to pop open this panel. The fists are then going to slide backwards and this panel will then reconnect. What you'll then do is spin around here at the bicep, you'll then take a hold of the missile pod and this will click forwards. Now what you'll do is grab a hold of the shoulder, push this backwards and then proceed to extend this here out to the side. Again guys, do the same for the second side, with the only difference being that firstly the scope is going to spin around and then will snap downwards. What you'll then do is kick the shoulder joint here out to the side and yet again making use out of those fists, use these in order to pop open the forearm. The fist is now going to slide backwards and then will snap back into place. What you'll then do is grab a hold of the bicep, spin this here all of the way around, and once more guys, making use out of those butterfly joints, slide the shoulder backwards and then proceed to extend this here out to the side. For the next step, we are now going to grab a hold of the Fallen's head sculpt. This is going to spin all the way around to the back, and yet again, do exactly the same here for the waist joint. So proceed to rotate this here all of the way around. Once you reach to this point, now we can take a hold of this panel. This section is going to slide all of the way down. You'll then take a hold of the side hip skirts and angle these here upwards. You must make sure to do this now, otherwise it's going to cause for some issues later down the line. What you'll then do is take a hold of the chest plate. This is now going to pop all of the way up, and stored on the underside is an additional panel, which at least for the time being, we are just going to pull downwards just to really get this here out of the way. What you'll then do is spin to the side of the Fallen, where we are now going to grab a hold of the chest plate. These sections are going to fold upwards, so again be sure to do the same for the second side. What you'll then do is take this entire component and pull this here forwards exactly like this. You'll then make use out of an additional hinge joint and proceed to spin this here all of the way around. Once you reach to this point, here is where you can now come in close to the torso, as this is where the tank treads are stored. So the front of the treads are going to fold all of the way up and will click there into place. What you'll then do is make use out of this hinge joint. This section is going to spin around here to the side. We are now going to take a hold of the backpack and disconnect it away from the tread. This is then going to spin all of the way around, and on the underside of this panel is a tab that is now going to slide into that slot. So hinge this section upwards until this does snap into place. And again guys, be sure to do the same for the second side. So take a hold of the front part of the tread, hinge this upwards until this does snap into place. Making use out of that hinge joint, fold this here out to the side, disconnect the backpack, spin around here at that mushroom joint, and once again make sure that that tab now slides into that slot. Once completed, we can then spin around here to the side of the Fallen. Now, first of all, this hinge joint is going to slide forwards, and the chest plate is now going to slide backwards. As I'm sure you guys would then guess, that tab is now going to slide into that slot. So, spin around here to the front, take both halves and combine these here directly down the middle. Then what you'll do is once again take a hold of this panel, hinge this upwards, really just to get this here out of the way, and that right there guys is the entire upper torso of the Fallen now fully transformed.
A few minutes later.
Now let's turn to the second half of the transformation. So for the first step, take the thigh and push this here in an opposite direction to the hip, unlocking an additional hinge joint. This section is then going to slide upwards, and this slot on the underside is going to attach into that tab. So connect that into place. What you'll then do is grab a hold of this panel, pop this here forwards, the tank tread is then going to slide upwards, and the foot is going to slide backwards into place. The tank tread will then snap back over the top. You'll then proceed to spin this here all of the way around until eventually this panel can connect into that tab exactly like this. And again guys, be sure to do the same for that second side. So take a hold of the thigh and push this here in an opposite direction to the hip. This section is then going to slide upwards and will snap there into place. You'll then take a hold of this panel, pop this here forwards, the tank tread is then going to extend upwards, and the foot is going to slide backwards. The tread is then going to come back and over the top. What you'll then do is line that slot up with that tab. So spin this section here all of the way around and snap that section into place. Once completed, those are the legs now fully transformed.
12 seconds later.
Then for the next step, we are finally going to make use out of this panel, as this is going to slide backwards and will proceed to snap there into place. Once completed, we can now turn our attention here to the shoulders, as these to begin with are going to slide down, and then what you'll do is make use out of those double joints. These are going to proceed to compress inwards. So again guys, be sure to do the same for the second side. Pull the shoulder joint here down and then proceed to very slowly compress those joints inwards until eventually you reach to this point, and that right there guys is the base tank mode now fully transformed. At this point, we can now bring out the Requiem Blaster, so grab a hold of the center and pop this section upwards. You'll then proceed to slide this forwards until eventually this does snap into place, elongating the cannon. We can then spin here to the underside, where we are now going to grab a hold of this post and slide it backwards until this too does click into place. Then you'll bring out the suppressor and snap this here into the front end. Now as we spin around to the back of the blaster, you guys are going to want to make specific note out of these two pretty big tabs, as these are going to slide into either side of the arms, combining both halves directly down the middle. Once it's all said and done, that right there guys is the transformation now completely complete. Blasting his way through the disciples of Primus, here is the Fallen, now fully transformed into his tank mode, which, despite being based on a design that never quite made it into the comics, looks to be incredibly solid. And a great detail would be that printed on the top of the Requiem Blaster would be this guy's unique insignia, something which is a great callback to the old Transformers Power of the Primes toy line. And as we flip here to the underside, this guy is fully decked out with a total of 4 proper rolling wheels, giving him the ability to not only ram through his opponents, but also to crush over the top of their sparkless remains. The only thing worth mentioning would be, despite the main turret itself being pretty decently articulated, only the back of the shoulders lock into the blaster. The front forearms do have a tendency to become very easily misaligned, which can be kind of annoying, but when it comes down to weapon storage, everything is able to seamlessly integrate into the design, creating for a look that I imagine would be pure nightmare fuel to anyone or anything that stands in his way. Racing through some vehicle mode size comparisons, on the right hand side is the Studio Series 86 Commander Class Optimus Prime, and yet again guys, the Fallen, even when fully transformed, is an absolute beast. To be entirely honest, I actually wouldn't mind if this was the design they stuck with when it came round to the upcoming 86 movie Megatron, as at least to myself this looks to be incredibly similar to the Roboson Megatron, which I really did think was a great updated take on that classic G1 Decepticon. Here is how he compares against the old legend, the Earthrise Optimus Prime, the Legacy Evolution Voyager Class Tarn. Now to kind of go back to my earlier point guys, as much as I love this mold, I really wouldn't mind seeing in the future an updated retool of this character from Megatronus. Then finally, the Studio Series 86 Bumblebee, and I've got to keep up this long running tradition of stating that Bumblebee would be absolutely blown to bits by Megatronus the Fallen. So, wrapping up on this review for the Transformers Age of the Primes Megatronus The Fallen. When it comes down to the Fallen's robot mode, simply ripped straight off the page of that Dreamwave comic series. He looks incredible. The articulation is fantastic, he includes a ton of accessories, more so than pretty much any of the more recent leaders. He packs a fantastic size, a great transformation, and an equally as awesome Cybertronian-based tank mode. So this definitely gets a recommendation from myself. I would love to know what you guys think of Megatronus The Fallen down in the comment section below. I want to thank you guys all so much for watching, and until my next review, transform and roll out!